the podcast today. We're going to talk about the current climate and hopefully offer some tips and advice on what we can do to help our listeners through this tough time. I'm proud to say I've got three very distinguished guests.
Everybody, my name is Martin Nichols. I have about 33 years experience in the recruitment industry and physically lived in recruitment in Hong Kong, Singapore, Thailand, Australia, and London, UK, and look forward to sharing at least some experiences with you today.
Thank you.
I'm in my 31st year in recruitment and have spent the majority of the time in the UK as a recruiter, a trainer, a coach, but I have spent the last 4 years in APAC and traveling over there. So yeah, love it. So Bangkok, Hong Kong, Tokyo, Singapore, China, Australia. So yeah, as far afield as I can get. Auckland was the furthest. That's as far as I got.
Richard, hi, I'm Paul Hickey here in the UK, and I'm going to bring the average amount of time down in recruitment to a mere 15 years on my part. My background is started a recruitment company, a contingency-based recruitment company in 2007 called Grass Greener Group. We work globally in executive search. After the recession in 2008, 2009, we changed our business model over a period of 12 months from contingency to retained within the same typically industrial tech-led markets, again globally. And that encouraged us to build a unique proposition, which we called iIntro, and that's a tech platform that underpins and supports the methodology that we carry out as a search business. And in 2013, we made that available to other forward-thinking recruitment companies globally, including Parker Bridge. So I wear two hats, and hopefully today I can share some of my knowledge through both businesses and help Parker Bridge companies in Thailand.
Okay, so if we go on to the first subject, and this question's to you, Martin, really. As the ex-CEO of Talent2 in Hong Kong, at the time of the 2008 global crisis, what lessons did you learn that might help industry leaders today to come through something, obviously this is an unprecedented crisis at the moment, but I think economically it's going to be similarities. What did you do, or what tips could you give leaders today?
Like I said, it's not all about people. As recruitment organizations, it might be, people are starting to negotiate changes in rent on apartments. Perhaps that's in business coming up. Governments are offering assistance in some countries. Maybe it's phone plans, maybe it's software, maybe it's job boards. And also, cash is king, maybe it's cash flow. I've spent much more time over the last few days chasing money myself than I really ever have done in my career, because that's important, and that's what's going to keep me going, and that's what's going to keep my business going. Mm-hmm. And also money in, like I say, so it's not about making cuts for the sake of cuts in terms of people. The other thing I think we need to think about, or one of the other things I need to think about, is our staff. I've seen a couple of webinars over the last couple of days on staff engagement. I would say engagement now is more important than it has ever been for any of us. And that works both ways. We need our staff need us, and we need them to be engaged. We need them to be working. We're in a different environment now. In the GFC, we couldn't send people home because they didn't have computers at home. We couldn't supply laptops at home. This is a very different scenario, and the whole world is adjusted, or is adjusting, to working from home. But if people aren't engaged, they're not going to work from home. If they're sitting watching Netflix now, they're not engaged. If they're working hard, you'll know it as a leader. And I think that whole relationship has changed. I think it will change for the long term. And I think there are things that we're changing now that will go into the future post this virus. But I think it's about now that our staff need us. And it's not always the head honcho they need. The head honcho, I think what people look from the boss is they look for solid decision-making, honesty, transparency, and direction. Going back to the ghost train, who knows what's next? We don't know what's next. So to go to a business and say, and I saw this happening, not in my business, thankfully, but I saw it happening in other businesses during the GFC, People are going and saying, we'll be all right. We don't need to make redundancies. We don't need to make changes. And guess what? A month later, death by 1,000 knives, they were making, death by 1,000 cuts, they were making those changes in their businesses. And the trust that's then left behind with the staff that you've got left, well, it's gone, because they're not going to believe any message that comes from their leaders. But it's not all, like I say, it's not all about top dog. It's really about their line manager. And I'm kind of looking at James now as I'm, James's face on the screen at the moment as I'm talking about this, because James's personal relationship with his team, as a coach, as a mentor, as a buddy, as a leader, as a guide, are more and more important than ever now. And I think, you know, I'm noticing it. Same, I put something on the internet, on LinkedIn the other day. It's in the same way that I'm getting calls now from people that I haven't spoken to for 36 years. And in fact, the other night I had that very discussion. We hadn't spoken for 36 years. But I'm taking this as an opportunity to really talk to people. And I think this is also just an opportunity. My client, I had a call from a client earlier on, Martin, you okay? I'm just calling to touch base. No recruitment going on, no coaching going on, no consulting going on, but they care, people care, and we all need to show that care. I think the other thing is our clients, our offerings. And, you know, we come from, most of us, from traditional recruitment businesses. I've worked in contingent recruitment, I've worked in search, I've worked in mass recruitment and outsourcing. But now it's about looking at what can we do for the market. You know, we've seen in Australia lots of opportunities in retail, for example. We've seen governments, call centers. I've got friends who run call center businesses. Huge now, supporting governments, both in UK, Australia, Singapore as well. One of the companies I used to work for has just won a huge contract this week, supporting the Ministry of Manpower in Singapore. So the work changes. I think the nature of the work will change, the nature of the market will change. And also, let's not forget there's an opportunity for contract work, for example, now. Perhaps a traditional permanent business, there's good opportunities in contract working as well. There's always opportunity out there. And have a plan. Like any day, and you know, anytime any business without a plan doesn't reach their goal, right? And business, if we don't have a continuity plan now of some kind, we don't reach our goal. And so there always needs to be a plan. Don't become the victim. Don't let your organizations become the victim. Have a plan around it. There's always a plan. There's always work out there. There's always opportunity out there. But we do have to dig deep to find it. Okay. Just one other word. I think just a couple of things I just want to mention before I let somebody else talk. Lots of changes can be made in terms of, you know, 3-day weeks, 9-day fortnights. Furloughing staff is a big thing now, which wasn't really available then because the government's help and things like that. So putting staff off for a few weeks and stuff like that. But I think it's about looking at all the alternatives and all the rest of it. But you've got to kind of go into this without emotion, and which is a very difficult thing to do. And some hard decisions are going to be hard along the way. A word on recruiters. You know, recruiters. A few weeks ago, people across the world, I'm not just talking about recruitment here, were jumping up and down in joy because they could work from home. Well, guess what? That's become real. You've got to work from home. And you can't sit around on Netflix. And you can't sit around, you know, playing video games or whatever might be your thing. The time has come to put productivity into the game. And, you know, guess who's going to be the top of any list of cost reductions if they're not on the ball and working hard? So my advice to recruiters is work harder than you've ever worked before, because you'll get through it. And my advice to leaders is to stay closer than you ever, without bothering and hindering your staff as before, but as support. And you'll get through it. We'll all get through it. There is an end to it. We just need to have a plan to get there.
So, you know, the question to you, Angela, really does follow on from Martin's topic. Was, you know, you spend a lot of time working with a broad range of recruitment companies across the globe, you know, and I noticed you've been on lots of webinars and podcasts over the last few weeks. What is it, what companies, recruitment companies are doing things differently that are doing well? And if you could give us some tips and advice on the ones that you think are going to survive what they're doing, and maybe some advice on the ones that are not so good.
that links into that point around motivating and managing performance. Start thinking about not the results that you want in 3 months, 6 months time or a year where we would normally. It's about how do you want your business or yourself to be remembered after this period in time. We had the Queen's speech on Sunday. She's only ever spoke to us 5 times in 80 years outside of her Christmas Day speech. So it was quite unusual. But hence the pearls, I'm playing her in a skit later than today, actually. So that's where that comes in. But her message was all about let's make sure that when in years to come, when history looks back on this, that us as individuals were seen as that caring type, and that we actually shared, we helped, we supported, and we did it with a bit of humour as well. And that's sort of the British sense anyway. Yeah, stiff upper lip, but let's have a laugh at ourselves. We don't take ourselves too seriously. So yeah, that's something that I'm doing today. So we'll see. I'm not very good at accents, but I will try the Queen. Right, so let's finish on the proactive activities then. What is it that you can actually be doing? So as I mentioned, get the individual to set their own targets at this point. You can have a huge list. I'm just going to run off a few, but things, it doesn't have to be results anymore. It could be LinkedIn connections, video calls, finding high demand candidates, webinars attended, blogs or articles written, following up on potential clients, following everyone on LinkedIn, getting new testimonials. Now's the time. You've got the time to go back and build your profile and get some testimonials from people that you've placed in the past. But also identifying new skills. What else could I be learning? What's the thing that I've been putting off because I just haven't had the time? Profiling your own clients, looking at what clients are your best clients, what are the characteristics about those clients, and then going back and reviewing who you've been working with over the last few years and where do they sit, because now's the time to also start working on those relationships. How can you make them better? What conversations can you have? What things can you offer to actually build on those relationships? So when those people are recruiting again, you're the person they're going to think of because you're the one that helped them through it in whatever format that takes. So identifying sort of things that your customers would like, whether that's webinars, events, information, detail, have those conversations, share the market knowledge that you get, because we're talking to lots of people at the same time, candidates and clients, and start pushing back and giving that and saying, well, I saw this article, thought of you. And send it through to them. So certainly with your potential clients that you want to work with, they should be really grateful that you're trying to help, you're supporting in whatever way you can. So when they do need to recruit again, then the likelihood is you're going to be top of that list. So there's lots of activities that people can be doing, and they set their own targets, and again, set them so that they can then go, right, did I get gold, silver or bronze on this? How am I doing? Am I needing support and help? Or actually, no, I'm doing really well now, and I've got a focus, I've got an idea, I've got what I want to do, and each day then. So that testimonial one, I spoke to someone last Monday, and we just said that, okay, today, all you're going to focus on is getting testimonials. By Wednesday, they had 13 LinkedIn testimonials that they would have never had before if they hadn't just taken that time. And that type of thing, I just want to finish on that point, because if you're feeling down, if you're really struggling, go back and read your testimonials, your LinkedIn recommendations. They will bring a tear to your eye if you're in that situation. But that's the time that what other people think about you and what they've said about you really helps to just bring you back and go, actually, no, I've got this. I can do this. This is who I am. This is what people see me as. And therefore, yeah,
one of the things that we've done in our recruitment company, Grass Greener, we launched this a couple of weeks ago, is we offered 10 companies our services completely free of charge. There was a caveat that, well, two caveats. One, that people shouldn't unfairly take advantage of our good nature, and our help was aimed at companies that were perhaps in real distress. They were in the final stages of recruiting somebody who was critically important to their business, or perhaps they'd lost somebody temporarily or even permanently to COVID-19. So a key position in a business, perhaps a sales director or a managing director. So we said, look, guys, if anybody out there needs our assistance, we would gladly help you completely, 100% free of charge. And we offered that to 10 companies. Now, we haven't been approached by 10 companies. we've been approached by a few who we're working with, but at least the offer was made, and at least we can help some people. So that was something that Angela brought up in terms of going and helping people as best as you can, as did Martin, in terms of going and just talking to people and making sure that they know that you're there for them in a time of need. And I think that will pay dividends going forward, as well as just doing the right thing.
If we can just crack on to the last point, which is for Paul. Paul, as someone who's built their recruitment company around remote working and retained search, what help could you give to our listeners now that might just be adopting this model due to the current climate?
And I think when it comes to tech and remote technology, recruitment are the last division of any business to really take advantage of that. So when I go in with my recruitment hat on, when I go and speak to companies that are potential clients, potential users of our service, one of the first questions I ask them is, how has your recruitment process changed in line with the rest of your business over the last 20 years? So when we look at a finance department in a typical business, or an operations department, or a manufacturing department, or a technical department, through technology, through advances in technology and processes and science, etc., businesses have moved on a great deal. However, when I ask them how their recruitment process has moved on in the last 20 years, quite often it's as obvious as, well, we now send CVs via email and we used to send them via fax. So quite often we're laggards when in the recruitment industry when it comes to taking on new methodology and new technology. So if you think about it, CVs have been around for a long time, resumes, and they are always the edited highlights. Everybody's got a fantastic CV. And something else that we look at is why people join a business. And typically people are hired because of their skills, their knowledge, their experience, and their background, their education. However, why are people typically fired from a business? And I ask this of my clients: why did you fire the last 3 people, or why did they choose to leave your business? And 99% of the time, that's due to behavioural reasons. They were not getting along with people in the team. They seemed unmotivated. It wasn't because they didn't have the skills or knowledge, because they wouldn't have been hired in the first place. So it was cultural reasons, it was behavioural reasons. So we look at that as well, and that's all part of a retained service. So why do we think it's so important to go and meet all the candidates that are in the process? Why do we think it's important to go and meet all of the companies? For 15 years, our recruitment company has been doing business globally. So we don't, it's impossible for us to jump on an aeroplane and go and meet with all of our clients and candidates. So we've learned by default how to do it remotely. So it's really interesting for us that companies, all of a sudden, we're seeing webinars and discussions left, right, and centre about video recruitment and remote recruitment and working from home. For us, it's perfectly normal. So just on that point of remote recruitment, Richard, just to give you an example of something that we do in the UK, we work with it's actually an Irish business headquartered both in Ireland and the UK, and it's very relevant in as much as they are one of the world's leading manufacturers of PPE products. Most people didn't actually know what PPE was until about 3 weeks ago, and now it's top of everybody's mind. And from our office in the UK, via a managed service contract, we've recruited over 60 people for them. These are salespeople in the USA. So pretty much somebody in every state, and sometimes 2 people in a state. We've not visited America. We've not met the leaders in America. We've not met one candidate, but the company are proving very, very successful. That's over a 3-year period, so around 20 people per year into that business. And guess what? We charge them around half of our typical fee. I've almost covered it actually, Richard, in most of what we've talked about. So a bit of a recap in as much as people are now finding, and this was covered earlier by both Martin and Angela, that people are the most important part of any business. And if you haven't realized that before, these millennials who are now moving into leadership positions, people realized it in the first recession, the second recession of our lifetimes. perhaps in the UK during Brexit, and certainly now, that when people are not turning up for work, people are at home. It drives it home how important people are to your business, no matter how good your product or service is. Without people to push that, to innovate, to lead, to develop, to grow, then your business is nothing. So take care of your people, recruit them in the right way, treat them properly, incentivize them, treat them, care for them, spend time with them. Some of the things Angela covered, we're doing within our recruitment business. We have a 9 o'clock catch up, we sing a song, we have a bit of a giggle and a laugh. It's not all about work, but people know that we're there for them. And that's really, really important, not just for recruitment companies, for employers right across the board as well. Even if they're furloughed, don't just leave them to sit at home. Help them with some learning.